So as I've been saying all weekend, if we don't work with our thinking, we're not going to recover. You know, when I introduced this session, I always talk about a phone call. When I was doing support on the phone, a woman rang me up one day and she said to me, "My daughter's getting married in 6 months' time. What if? What if I can't get to the church? What if I have a panic attack? What if I can get to the church and I have to rush out because I'm having a panic attack? What if I can make it through the service but I can't get to the reception? What if I can get to the reception, but what if I have a panic attack in the reception line? What if I can make it through the reception line, but when they're cutting the cake, what if I have a panic attack? What if when they're doing the bridal waltz, I can't get up and dance with my husband? What are the new in-laws going to think of me? The wedding is 6 months away and I'm getting worse. You've got to help me." And I said to her, "Did you just hear what you said to me?" What did I say? What did I say? What if? What if this is causing the problem it is? All the what ifs. What if, what if, what if? And all that's doing is turning on the fight and flight response. We've got to move from what if to so what. To so what if we have a panic attack? And people can think, well, it's really easy for me to say that, but that's how I recovered. So what if I have a panic attack? It simply doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter where I have them. I've even had 2 taking this session. So what? So what? And not this session, but when I'm taking this session in other workshops, I've had, 2. So what? You need to be able to have an attack. Who cares? So what? Because when you can so what, it's over as quick as it starts. As I said, mine are now down to 30 seconds. Who cares? And I know the reasons why, but I had them both. I was just very, very tired and I just associated, quite deeply. So what? Who cares? I mean, positive thinking. How many people are using positive thinking? Trying to? Isn't positive thinking just wonderful? Do you know why positive thinking doesn't work? Exactly. Do not believe what we're saying to ourselves. My sister and I had panic disorder at the same time. She lived in Darwin, I lived down here. I thought I was the sick one in the family and she should just pull herself together. There was nothing wrong with her. And she thought the same thing about me. 4 years later we realised we had the same thing. And my uncle gave her that affirmation that we all know and love so well. In every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And she was like me, she was housebound. And so she put that affirmation, on the TV, in the passageway, in the toilet, on the bedroom mirror, in the lounge room, in the kitchen, wallpapered the whole house. Every day and every way I'm getting better and better. And the truth was, every day, in every way, she was getting sicker and sicker because she wasn't believing what she was saying to herself. And that's what I was saying to you before about the emotional development. We need to bring our emotional development up to our intellectual ability. And using a mindfulness technique is going to help us bring our emotional development up to our intellectual development. But it's also going to show us very, very subtly why there is nothing to fear. And working with mindfulness, and this is the cognitive technique I'm going to teach you right now, working with mindfulness means that we need to stay in the moment. And what is it? It's 11:32 by my watch. It's 11:32. But are you with me right now at 11:32? Or are you thinking what you're going to do this afternoon? What are you going to have for lunch? Or what's on TV tonight? Or are you thinking about work tomorrow? Or what am I going to do tomorrow? Or what if? None of us are ever in the present moment in time. We're either back in the past, which was only a minute away, a minute past, or we're in the future, which is only a thought away. We're never dealing with what is happening right now. And all of us are dragging this baggage with us I mean, all of us know when our anxiety disorder started. We all know when we had our first spontaneous panic attack. We all know when our social anxiety really started to shoot up high, or our anxiety levels went really, really high. We all know. And we're bringing this baggage with us. We're bringing perhaps the lack of diagnosis or diagnosis and not appropriate treatment. We're bringing all the horror with us. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. All the fears, all the shame, all the humiliation. We're bringing the thoughts of the big one that's coming, the big one's just around the corner. We're bringing that all with us. And we're missing this current moment in time, and we're throwing all of this horrible past into the future, which is a thought away. We have an anxiety disorder. That is the truth. That's what you've been diagnosed with. And you now need to believe it. That is skillful, that is compassionate, and that is active. If you're not believing your doctors, then you've got to go back and talk to your doctors again. And tell them your doubts, tell them your fears. Because if you're doubting you have an anxiety disorder, you're not going to recover, because you're not going to recover from something. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about every time the phone rings? What are you thinking about every time you see a flower or a dog or a cat? Use triggers from your environment to pull up your awareness. What am I thinking about? You've got to become very familiar with your own mind. And some people say, I don't want to know what I'm thinking about. People get scared. Oh, I don't want to look at my thoughts. They're just words in your head. And thinking to yourself, I don't want to know, it's too scary, is only a thought. If you're not prepared to look at your thinking, how are you going to recover? And it's not skillful, it's not compassionate. And so you can feel the fear and have a look at your thoughts and see the thought, I'm too scared to look at this. And see how your body responds to it. So the first stage is becoming aware, becoming mindful, pulling back and just listening to your thoughts. I say to people, when I was on the phones and they'd be having a panic attack, I'd say, what are you thinking about? Nothing, I'm not thinking of anything. What were you thinking 5 minutes before the panic attack? Nothing, I wasn't thinking of anything. That's not true. They were thinking of something before the panic attack, and they're certainly thinking something now during the panic attack. They simply were not aware. So you become very, very skilled in becoming mindful, being aware of your thinking. But I know that you won't. Not initially. It takes some time to get into it. So when you're feeling anxious, bring up your awareness. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? What were you thinking 5 minutes before you noticed your anxiety level rising? If you're having a panic attack, what were you thinking 5 minutes before? Or were you dissociating? Because a lot of us will dissociate, go into a trance state and then panic as a result of the trance state. So become aware. Did you trance out and then think, oh, what's happening to me? Here it comes again? Or were you just simply thinking and those thoughts induced a panic attack or induced your anxiety? And it's not you having a panic attack first or being anxious first and then your thinking starts. It's your thinking that's creating it, unless you're dissociating or trancing out, and then it's your thoughts about the trance state that are creating it. You need to become aware and see and understand that whole process. When you're having a panic attack, and initially it's too difficult to become aware of what you're thinking about, but after a panic attack, stop, think, go back. What were you thinking about 5 minutes before the attack? Were you dissociating? What were you thinking about 10 minutes before? Were you dissociating? What were you thinking about 15, 20 minutes before? And you can backtrack on your thoughts and you can see your thoughts building and building, or you can see yourself how you were dissociating and your attack's just a natural result of the whole thing. The same if you're feeling anxious. What are you thinking about? You need to become aware of what's happening in your own mind, but then you need to bring that awareness down into the body and see how it's being created. You need to see how the thoughts are turning on the fight and flight response and how all your symptoms are being activated. And you need to see the whole thing as it happens. Either being aware, I'm dissociating, I tranced out, and then I thought, oh, here I go, I'm going crazy, or whatever it is you're thinking. Or you're thinking about, gosh, I hope I'm not anxious, I hope I don't get anxious, I hope I don't have a panic attack, and you need to be aware of how that is turning on the fight and flight response. You need to become aware. And as I said to you before, it's not necessarily the obvious panic, anxiety thoughts that are doing it now. It could be anything that you're thinking about will be triggering it, especially if it's in relation to the self issues that we were talking about before. What will people think of me? I'm feeling guilty, or whatever it is. Become aware and see how those thoughts are also turning on the fight and flight response. So that is the first part, is to be mindful, to be aware. Become aware of your thinking, bring that awareness down into your body and see how your body is responding. Or if you dissociate, become aware if you're dissociating, see the thought, see how that turns on the fight and flight response and how your body responds. Does everyone understand that first part? So that's the first part. The second part, what do we do with it? In meditation, you know, I was saying to you, become aware of your thinking, let go of your thoughts and bring your mind back to the word or back to the breath or back to the image. Now, we're not going to be walking around meditating because that's really silly and it's avoidance behaviour and it's distracting. But we're going to bring the letting go process over into everyday life. Because when you're aware of your thinking and you can actually see how your anxiety and panic is being created, A, you begin to lose your fear of it because you can just see what's happening so clearly. But you also see you have a choice. You keep thinking those thoughts and you know what's going to happen. Panic, anxiety city. You have a choice. You can either keep thinking that way or you can simply stop. And so what we get you to do is see the thought and label it. We deliberately get you to label the thought. That way you're not distracting from the thought, you're not running from the thought, you're taking it head on. So you label the thought. Yes, that's an anxiety thought, that's a panic thought, that's a guilt thought, that's a must thought, that's a should thought, that's a depressive thought, that's a guilt, whatever. Label the thought and let it go the same way as you did in meditation. Stop thinking about it. And the moment you let it go, oh, it's straight back up. Yoo-hoo, here I am. Label the thought, let it go. And it's going to come straight back at you. Label it, let it go. And it's going to come straight back at you again. Label it, let it go. And it will come back and it will be more urgent. Why aren't you taking notice of me? This could be the big one that's coming. Your heart's really racing now. And you think, oh, that's an anxiety thought, and you let it go. And it'll come straight back up like a cobra and hiss at you. Your heart's really racing. You're having trouble breathing. Are you sure that big one's not going to come? You go, anxiety thought, and you label it, let it go. And it'll be straight back up. You're having trouble breathing. Your heart's racing. You're feeling sick. This could be the preparation of the big one's going to come and get you. And you, oh, no, it's not on you. Label it and you let it go. And by this stage, you're really buying into the fear. And up it comes straight back up again. Your heart's racing, you're having trouble breathing, you're feeling really sick, now you're really, really dizzy, you've got to get some help. And you say, yes, of course I do. And you rush for the phone and you call the ambulance or you rush down to accident emergency. And that's what's going to happen a lot of the time when you're learning to let go. Because it still has the power over you. And so you just come back to square one again, you label the thought and let it go. And if you think you're tired now, you're going to be very tired doing this. It's very mentally exhausting. But there's a reason why we're doing this. Every time you let that thought go, you label that thought and let it go, you're stopping that thought from moving down the normal pathway in the brain. Cognitive therapy changes the thought pathways in the brain.